We're back here, John Pollock alongside John Ramdeen and Robin Black. Of course, the name that is always popping up is Nick Diaz, and when people can expect him to come back. He hasn't fought in over 2 years now, since fighting Anderson Silva all the way back in January of 2015. There's certainly no shortage of interesting fights for him, not just at 170, but also at 185 pounds. And John, this is a year where I think the UFC is more incentivized than ever to make an offer for Nick Diaz that is of interest to Nick Diaz to fight, because he only wants big, gigantic fights. And are there those fights currently amongst your roster that's really going to get his interest at this point?
I think when you think about Nick Diaz and the potential matchups for Nick Diaz at 170 pounds, like, they seem infinite. And for the hardcore fans, or you think about a fight with Demian Maia. I was like, holy cow, I forgot. Nick Diaz's jiu-jitsu's through the roof, but Demian Maia seems to be different level. Imagine these guys rolling around on the ground. And then Jorge Masvidal gets that incredible win over Donald Cerrone. It's like, oh, wait, these guys flow very, very nicely. Wait, there's the rematch with Robbie Lawler that a lot of people want to see. How would he match up with Stephen Thompson? And then the list goes on and on and on. But as you pointed out, Nick Diaz, as much as those are interesting for the hardcore fans,
they're not big blockbuster fights.
Exactly. And Nick Diaz, like, I'm good. I don't need to come back to the UFC. I don't like getting hurt. I don't want to get beaten up, and that's what happens in fighting. So if you want me to come back, you have to make it worth my time, and I need the biggest name humanly possible and the biggest payday attached to that. Again, right now it would be Conor McGregor, but I don't think Nick Diaz is going to step in front of Nate, knowing that the biggest fight for Nathan Diaz is that fight with Conor McGregor. So is it, in my opinion, is probably a 185-pound fight with Michael Bisping. These guys will sell the hell out of the fight. They both have that old school. Nick Diaz, maybe new school, and I think it would be a tremendous fight, but there are so many fights for Nick Diaz.
I think, for me, Nick Diaz, where are you at, George? Where are you at, George? I think that's the one that would get him out there immediately. Yeah. But I sure love, hey man, I love to see these fights. That's what we're here for. That's what the deal is. I want to see Nick Diaz fight Demian Maia. Damn right I do. But I'm also, let's put our desires as fans off to the side and celebrate this great martial artist. I like that Nick Diaz can do whatever he wants. Mm-hmm. And I love that. And I think
this is great. Everything we argue about when we're talking about associations and fighters having, some power in all of this.
Leverage.
The Diaz brothers, which, look at that from, you go 5 years ago, here are two guys that figured it out, that got their big money fights, and that were able to, essentially, we can fight on our terms. You will come to us, we will not come to you. So often it's the fighters that are just hat in hand, that are just whatever the UFC throws at us, we jump on. And now more and more fighters, it's, no, I'm not jumping at the first thing that's offered my way. And when guys have political currency, which is what the Diaz brothers have, they can dictate terms. I completely am in agreement with their decision to, they fight when they feel like it with the fights they want.
And which is why, as fans, we know what we want. We want to see Nick fight those fights. So we want to see it. But fortunately for us, if we watch a fighter that we really admire, like Nick Diaz, say, no, I don't feel like it. Jorge Masvidal, Demian Maia.
Yeah, killer.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Maybe Masvidal and the now disenfranchised Robbie Lawler.
Yeah,
the ATT versus former ATT.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. Whether it's Nick, to me, Nick Diaz is one of the most interesting fighters ever in mixed martial arts history. So, from a selfish standpoint, it's like, I want to see Nick Diaz versus all of these guys. I want to see Nick Diaz versus Cowboy Cerrone. I want to see Nick Diaz versus Rory McDonald. I know he doesn't fight in the UFC, but there are all these fights that I want to see. But when it comes down to it, if Nick Diaz isn't a part of it, Masvidal. Give me Masvidal versus all those guys. I want to see fresh matchups. And because 170 pounds is so deep, maybe the deepest division in mixed martial arts right now, with so many quality fighters, interesting, unique fighters, that it's such a great time. And just everybody should be able to fight each other, but they should be paid to fight each other because the level is so high.
I never got a chance to congratulate Jorge the River Masvidal. Congratulations, my friend. You were like water. That was a fantastic fight.
All right. Let us know who you think Nick Diaz will fight, if he will ever fight again. Post in our comment section, and that does it for us.